Watch a room the next time a weak man walks into it. Nobody says anything cruel to his face. Nobody has to. The disrespect happens in the way conversations continue without him, in the way his opinion gets a polite nod and then gets ignored, in the way people make plans and forget to include him. That's the part nobody explains. Weakness doesn't get punished with insults, it gets punished with invisibility. And here's the uncomfortable part you need to sit with. This isn't about muscles or height or how many people you could beat in a fight. Some of the most weak men in a room are physically fit. They go to the gym 4 times a week. They fold the second someone raises their voice, or apologizes for existing before anyone's even asked them to, or changes their entire opinion because the room went quiet for a beat too long. That's what weakness looks like. And that's what we're going to take apart today. Where it comes from, why people can smell it in seconds, and what separates the men who get taken seriously from the men who get talked over. Let's start with why this matters. Because most guys think respect is something you earn through achievement. Get the degree, get the job, get the body, and respect follows automatically. It doesn't. You've met broke, average-looking guys who somehow command a room, and you've met successful men who still get walked over by their own girlfriends, their own co-workers, their own family. Respect isn't a reward for output. It's a reaction to presence, and presence is built from something deeper than resume lines. There's a reason humans developed this radar in the first place. Long before resumes existed, your ancestors needed to know, instantly, who could be trusted to protect the group and who would fold under pressure. That instinct never left us. It changed its target. Now it's reading your tone of voice in a meeting, your posture at a bar, how fast you say sorry when you didn't do anything wrong. The test looks different. The judgment is the same as it was 10,000 years ago. So what signals weakness to that ancient radar? 3 things, mostly. Inconsistency between words and actions, constant need for external approval, and an inability to hold a position under any pressure. Let's go through these one at a time because each one is doing more damage than you realize. Start with inconsistency. Picture a guy at work who tells his coworker he's not okay covering an extra shift, and then 20 minutes later he's covering the shift anyway because the coworker pushed a little harder. Nothing was said out loud about it, but everyone in that office filed away a piece of information. His word doesn't hold weight. Next time he says he's busy, they'll push again, because pushing worked. You're not training other people how to treat you. You're training your own nervous system to expect that pushback works on you. That's the part that wrecks a man's confidence. Not one bad moment, but thousands of small surrenders that build a pattern even he starts to believe. Then there's the approval seeking. This one's sneakier because it disguises itself as being agreeable, easygoing, chill. A guy laughs a little too hard at his friend's joke that wasn't funny. He agrees with whatever opinion was stated last in the conversation. He changes his order at the restaurant because someone else at the table made a face. Individually, these are nothing. Stacked together, over a night, over a friendship, over a relationship, they tell a clear story. This man does not have a center. And people, stop bringing him real problems. Stop asking his real opinion. Stop expecting anything from him except agreement. You can't respect a mirror. A mirror has no opinion of its own to respect. And the third one, folding under pressure. This is the big one. The one that costs men relationships and jobs and self-respect all. Someone raises their voice. Someone gets a little aggressive in a negotiation. Someone challenges an idea harshly in a group chat. And the weak response isn't necessarily backing down on the actual point. Sometimes backing down is the smart move. The weak response is backing down because of the tone, not because of the argument. That's the tell. People aren't testing whether you're right. They're testing whether volume and aggression control you. And if it does, once, they now have a lever they will pull again and again in every future disagreement. Here's where most self-improvement content stops and gives you the obvious fix. Be more confident. That advice is useless because confidence isn't a switch you flip. It's a byproduct. Nobody tells you what it's a byproduct of, so let's go there. Confidence is downstream of proof, not proof to other people. Proof to yourself, collected in small, boring, repeated moments where you did the harder thing instead of the easier thing. You said no when saying yes would have been more comfortable. You held your price in a negotiation even though the silence afterward felt unbearable. You told a friend the truth they didn't want to hear instead of agreeing to keep the peace. Each one of these is a deposit. Confidence is the accumulated interest. Now, here's the part that might genuinely change how you see this. Most men think weakness is caused by fear. It's usually the opposite. Weakness is caused by an addiction to comfort disguised as fear. The guy who folds isn't necessarily terrified. He's choosing the shorter, easier discomfort of backing down over the longer, harder discomfort of holding his ground. Backing down feels bad for 30 seconds. Holding your ground can feel bad for hours, sometimes days, while you wait to see if the relationship survives the tension. Weak men are optimizing for the next 30 seconds. Strong men are optimizing for the next 30 years. That single shift in time horizon is the actual difference between the two types of men, and nobody names it directly. Let's make this concrete with an example most of you will recognize. A guy is dating someone, and she cancels plans for the third time in 2 weeks with a vague excuse. The weak response is to say, "No worries, another time," instantly, because any hint of tension in the moment feels unbearable. The strong response isn't yelling or guilt tripping. It's saying, calmly, "That's twice this month. Is everything okay, or is this not a priority for you right now?" That sentence costs you 30 uncomfortable seconds, but it tells her and it tells you where you stand instead of letting resentment build for 6 more months until it explodes into something ugly. Same pattern shows up at work. A manager keeps handing a guy extra work with 0 extra pay or credit because every time the manager tests the water, the guy says, "Yeah, no problem," instead of "I can take this on, but let's talk about what that looks like for my role." One sentence. That's the entire gap between the man who gets promoted and the man who gets used for 5 years and then wonders why he got passed over. And this is the midpoint realization worth sitting with. You are not being disrespected because people are cruel. You are being disrespected because you've been giving accurate information about what you'll tolerate, and people are responding to the data you provided. That's not an insult. It's good news, because it means the fix is entirely in your hands. Nobody has to change for you to stop being the guy who gets walked over. You have to stop supplying the proof that you can be. So what does the actual shift look like day to day? It's smaller than people expect, and that's why most men skip it. It's not a personality transplant. It's a series of specific, repeatable behaviors. First, delay your response by 2 seconds before agreeing to anything you're not sure about. Not to be difficult, to break the automatic yes. That 2-second pause alone will change how often you say things you don't mean. Second, practice disagreeing in low-stakes situations before you need it in high-stakes ones. Tell your friend his restaurant pick is wrong and suggest a different one. Tell your barber you want it shorter, not what he thinks looks good. These feel trivial, but they're reps. You're training the muscle that later has to hold a boundary with your boss or your partner. Third, and this is the one men resist the most, let some situations feel awkward without rescuing them. When you apologize instantly to kill tension, you're not being kind. You're avoiding discomfort at the cost of your own credibility. Let the silence sit longer than feels natural. Watch what happens. Usually, nothing bad happens. The world doesn't end, and that single piece of evidence is worth more than 100 motivational quotes, because now you have proof, not theory. None of this makes you cold or aggressive or someone who picks fights to prove a point. In fact, the men who get respected are always calm about it. They don't need to raise their voice because their word has always meant what it said the first time. That's the whole secret hiding in plain sight. Respect isn't loud, it's consistent. The man who gets remembered in a room isn't the one who talked the most or the one who worked out the hardest that week. It's the one whose no meant no, whose yes meant something, and whose calm never depended on everyone else staying calm first. That man isn't unshakable because nothing ever gets to him. He's unshakable because he stopped needing the outcome of every moment to go his way in order to feel okay with himself. That's the version of you this video is about. Not louder, not harder, just harder to move. Tell me which part hit closest to home. The approval seeking, the folding under pressure, or the inconsistency between your words and actions. Drop it in the comments because I read every one of them. And if this gave you something to think about today, subscribe. There's a lot more of this coming.